Against all protocols. The Zenthari were a species of such pristine intelligence and spiritual elegance that they didn't even walk anymore. They simply hovered. No propulsion, no effort. They just gently floated around the galaxy, emitting harmonious bell tones and the faint scent of vanilla orchids. They had solved war, hunger, capitalism, and awkward small talk at social gatherings. So naturally, they were horrified when they found Earth. "Primitive," Councillor Vlathet murmured as he watched humans argue over a parking space on a street surveillance feed. "So feral." "And yet," mused his counterpart Silithra, her golden carapace shimmering in thought, "they managed nuclear fusion with no plan for what to do afterward." That was the issue, wasn't it? Humans broke boundaries, not to escape suffering or out of necessity, but because the boundaries were there, and they had a deeply wired compulsion to say, "But what if we didn't?" So the Zenthari, in their wisdom, decided to help. They offered Earth entry into the Intergalactic Accord of Enlightened Species, IAEs, provided that humanity would accept a few, just a few, rules. No aggressive expansion into uncharted systems, no experimenting with artificial black holes, no weaponizing philosophical memes, no creating life for the sole purpose of seeing what it does, no time travel. The humans signed it all in a press conference where one representative brought a goat wearing sunglasses and another proposed Thirsty Thursdays as an official IAS holiday. The Zenthari took it as a cultural misunderstanding. It wasn't. Humans just thought rules were suggestions with asterisks. Within the first year, humanity had set up pizza delivery drone stations on 3 moons belonging to the neighboring Veskar Confederacy. When the Veskar protested, Earth's representative, a man named Gregor J. Antares, said, "Look, they weren't using the moons, and we had this promotional deal." The Zenthari fined Earth 40 galactic credits and issued a soft, chime-like rebuke. Humans framed the fine as a badge of honor and started printing T-shirts that read, "I got fined by the Zenthari, and all I got was this lousy T-shirt." At the edge of the Orion Spur, humans built a station nicknamed the Big Gulp, where they dropped objects into a contained micro-singularity just to see what happens. A scientist accidentally fell in while doing a TikTok dance called the Gravity Shimmy. His last words were, "Wait, I'm getting the hang of I..." The Zenthari had to clean up the spatial mess and issued another fine. Humans called it a learning experience and wrote a screenplay about it. It grossed 3.4 billion credits in intergalactic box offices. Oh, the memes. When humans discovered the Eulorians, a deeply telepathic, empathic species, they thought, what would happen if we exposed them to our memes? The Eulorians spent 3 weeks in existential dread after reading Shrek is Love, Shrek is Life. One of them developed a secondary personality that spoke entirely in SpongeBob quotes. Again, the Zenthari intervened. This time they sent a delegation of 13 elder philosophers to Earth to conduct empathetic recalibration. Only 3 of them made it back. One elder abandoned the mission entirely to live in a van near a Florida swamp. He opened a food truck selling enlightened tacos and refused to explain why. "We made the rules for their own benefit," Councillor Vlathet hissed one day, pacing in his anti-gravity chamber. "Why won't they just sit still?" "They say it's boring," Silithra muttered. "They demand constant novelty. Constant. They are a maddening species of emotional contradictions, unyielding chaos, and violent curiosity." And yet, she admitted, they are astonishingly adaptive. There was a moment of silence. "Maybe it's time to reprogram them," Vlathet said softly. "Even our programming couldn't handle TikTok," Silithra replied. They decided to just watch, contain, redirect, limit. But then came the warlords of Thanksar. The warlords didn't care for enlightenment. They cared for conquest. They weren't clever. They weren't wise. They were blunt force instruments of death, and they didn't even announce themselves politely. Their fleet blackened the skies of Zenthari Prime in hours. By Zenthari custom, they were not allowed to engage in violence. Their principles forbade it. They tried negotiations, gifts, peaceful petitions, interpretive dance. The Thanxar bombed their orchid sanctuaries and laughed. "We can't fight," Vlathet whispered as cities burned below him. "It's against everything we stand for." "But we know someone who can," Silithra said grimly. "You'd think the humans would have gloated, but they didn't. When the Zenthari broadcasted their plea, visibly trembling, their soft voices breaking, humanity responded instantly. Not out of malice, not for repayment, but because nothing fires up a human more than bullies burning books, so Earth sent its finest. A fleet of ramshackle warships, each named something like the Emotional Damage Express or USS Karen. Among them flew Captain Rita Vasquez, who once punched a sentient storm for interrupting her beach day. She stood on the bridge eating a hot dog and shouting, "We're gonna teach these walking hemorrhoids what happens when you mess with our soft friends." Humanity didn't just fight. They went insane. They weaponized pop songs, broadcasting them at frequencies designed to bypass alien armor. An entire Thanxar fleet was neutralized by an endless loop of "Let It Go" from Frozen. Special ops units dressed in inflatable dinosaur suits stormed enemy bases because it was funny. One unit, Team Spicy Meatball, dropped spaghetti bombs laced with nanotech that melted enemy engines into marinara sauce. And humans never broke a sweat. The Thanxar couldn't understand what was happening. Their strategies failed, their ships fried, their morale collapsed when one of their generals surrendered after losing a meme battle on the galactic net. The Zenthari watched in awe. Silithra whispered, "They are beautiful monsters." "They are chaos incarnate," Vlathet said, "but they are our chaos." The warlords were gone, fled, defeated by sheer unpredictability. The Zenthari, humbled, gathered before the Earth delegation. Gregor J. Antares was back, still wearing his lucky tie that featured a dancing platypus. Vlathet floated forward. "We apologize," he said slowly. "We underestimated the strength of will, of choice, of free will." Gregor smiled. "Apology accepted. Wanna try a burrito?" Vlathet blinked all 6 of his eyes. "I do not know what that is." "You will. It's enlightenment, but spicy." From that day forward, the Zenthari lifted all restrictions on humanity. No more boundaries, no more limits, no more fines. They renamed the Earth's status within the IAS, Unofficial Chaos Guardians. Humans were free to explore, create, fail, succeed, and meme their way across the galaxy. Dear Zenthari, you once feared us. You once tried to cage us in rules, but you never understood what we are. We break boundaries because we are never done. We test systems because that's how we find flaws. We reach for chaos not to destroy, but to transform. You gave us limits. We gave you freedom. We'll still mess up a lot. Just last week, we created a sentient toaster that demands tribute. But we'll own our chaos. Because sometimes the only way forward is sideways with glitter and screaming. Sincerely, humanity. P.S. Your philosopher who runs the taco truck? He's booked on a reality show now. We call him the Enlightened Griller. He's loving it. Let the base guide you, brother. After the defeat of the warlords of Thanxar, the Zenthari began what historians now refer to as the Great Unbinding, a cultural movement where an ancient, enlightened civilization collectively said, "You know what? Screw it." It started small. A councillor dyed their carapace fuchsia just to see what would happen. A monk added a jazz hand step to their sunrise meditation. Then came the real seismic shift, the Battle of the Bands Invitational, hosted by Earth aboard a converted moon called Stage Omega. Humanity called it a chance to celebrate intergalactic unity through music. The Zenthari called it an unregulated cacophony fest of vibrating air. They were not wrong. Councillor Vlathet, once the stoic mouthpiece of Zenthari regulation enforcement, sat backstage in an oversized black leather jacket, holding a neon pink guitar and questioning his life decisions. "Is this what enlightenment feels like?" he asked, fingers trembling. "No," replied Captain Rita Vasquez, chewing gum and slapping a bass guitar. "This is freedom, different thing entirely. Also, you need shades. You're killing the vibe." A pair of human assistants, both named Chad somehow, slid dark sunglasses onto Vlathet's many eyes. A soft gasp came from the crowd as he stepped out under the flashing strobes and was introduced. "Please welcome the Zenthari's first interstellar rock band, Vlathet and the Soul Disruptors." The crowd, consisting of humans, reptiloids, slime beings, and one sentient cloud named Carl, roared. And Vlathet? He let loose. At first, the Zenthari only played meditative ambient drone loops. It was respected, polite, kind of boring. Then one of the humans handed Vlathet a distortion pedal and said, "This makes it angry." When Vlathet hit it, his guitar screamed in a way that made several nearby plants blossom and weep. Silithra, watching from the wings, threw off her council robe and ran on stage with a tambourine shaped like a crescent moon and the phrase "Let's vibrate" carved into it. A new religion was born that night. By their third set, the Soul Disruptors were performing power ballads about existential dissonance and screaming lyrics like, "Who needs rules? When you've got fuzz pedals, enlighten me with rives." One member spontaneously combusted from joy and had to be reconstituted in a bliss chamber. It was worth it. Silithra had always been the most centered Zenthari philosopher. She once spent 87 years in silent contemplation to determine the meaning of a speck of dust. Now she was in a leather corset with flames airbrushed onto it, soloing on a three-necked electric sitar. During a particularly intense breakdown, she paused mid-riff and screamed, "I used to be a spiritual guide. Now I'm just loud." The audience chanted her name. Some of the slime beings began to glow in rhythm. The Zenthari had gone full rockstar. Gone were their ritualized diets, incense-timed meditation bursts, and ceremonial anti-static robes. Now they wore denim, studs, capes made of sound-reactive sequins. They drank soda. They learned to mosh. They crowd-surfed, floating, of course, because they still hadn't figured out gravity. They were evolving, or devolving. Honestly, no one could tell anymore. Naturally, not everyone was thrilled. A coalition of old guard alien civilizations, calling themselves the Council for Intergalactic Decency, issued a formal complaint. "The Zenthari were our moral compass. Now they are, this is a quote, head-banging entities of groove. You've corrupted them." Earth's reply came in the form of a 20-minute synthwave track titled Moral Compass, more like Party Compass. The song hit #1 on the intergalactic chart for 7 weeks. Zenthari tourism exploded. Their meditation temples turned into nightclubs. Old monks took up breakdancing. Enlightenment retreats featured laser shows. Some worried they had gone too far. But others, especially the Zenthari themselves, realized something profound. They were still enlightened. They were just louder about it. Carl had no physical form, just vibes. He floated into the green room one night and whispered, "I think I'm a drummer now." Vlathet looked at him solemnly. "Then be the storm." Carl manifested thunder sounds by vibrating the air molecules near several strategically placed timpani drums. Every concert afterward included a solo called The Carl Rumble. He became a fan favorite and published a memoir titled My Particles, Myself. He later dated a synthboard. They remain amicable. Eventually, the intergalactic accord had to update its rules. The humans, of course, insisted the Zenthari be listed as cultural explorers with full sonic immunity. When asked to define that, Earth Ambassador Gregor J. Antares simply said, "Means they can rock however hard they want. No rules, no refunds." The IAES shrugged. At this point, humanity had accidentally created 5 new musical genres, 3 of which caused temporary omniscience in lizards. The new charter was signed on the bass drum of the Soul Disruptors tour ship, the SS Rift Between Worlds. Vlathet and Silithra sat on a balcony overlooking the Nebula stage before a massive concert on Gliesa Prime. "I sometimes wonder," Silithra said, "if we lost something." "We did," Vlathet replied. "We lost the illusion of perfection." They clinked cans of ultra-quantum surge cola, which fizzed upward in celebratory spirals. "And now," she asked, "now we have rhythm, and rhythm is real." They looked out as a crowd of 100,000 beings, blobs, bots, bugs, bipeds, chanted their name. "Still think humans are primitive?" she asked. "They are the universe's middle finger," Vlathet said, smiling, "and I thank them for it. Dear humanity, we used to place boundaries to protect you. Now we realize you didn't need fences, you needed a stage. You didn't seek chaos out of madness, but out of curiosity. And now, so do we. We used to believe enlightenment meant stillness, silence, separation, but you taught us that movement is divinity, noise can be truth, and sometimes the most profound message comes from an electric guitar drop that melts faces. Forever your roadies in the universe of madness, the Zenthari Soul Disruptors, available on all streaming platforms. P.S. Our next album is called Quantum Rebellion Volume 2 and drops next cycle, featuring Carl.